circle, so seems right to offer it as the circle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. We could, if everybody wants to, when we do whoever does the opening prayer, we can do it in her honor. And everyone else doing similar work. Oh. So, whatever, I assume Shami forgot to connect the links and all that stuff. I never got it. I don't know why. I'll connect with her. She sent me a message. So Kat was on something else. She'll come in as soon as she's done that. And Shami had some emergency, I think, with her dog. She'll be about 15 minutes late. That's all I know. I guess I should put something out to Christopher because he told.
It's very early in the morning for him, isn't it?
It is, I think. But it's funny. I mean, I think everything we've ever done, Tanya, even when he's done, I think he's done some circles with us before. He's always misses the time. Am I right? Yep. It's just something in his. Okay, let's see. Where, oh, where? Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
Are you? Oh, you're recording. Okay.
Yeah, I just turned it on. I should just leave. When I came on, she set it so it comes right on, which is smart. But I turned it off in the beginning. That might not be smart because I almost forgot to turn it on again. I think it's a built-in thing for Zoom. Everybody on the planet forgets to turn on recording. I think they have it energetically triggered somehow. Trying to find my.
I don't know if it's an option. I don't think it, like for a meeting, right? To always record it when you set it up to record it. I don't know. I've never looked.
Yeah, apparently that's what she did, and I didn't know that either. Oh, email. Here we go. Zoom.
How about Eve? Is Eve joining us? Or is she?
I don't know. As soon as I found out the thing hadn't gone out, I sent her a note as well, because I know she has these early morning meetings every day. But let me see.
I have no idea what time it is for everybody.
And here's Robert, also has a personal emergency.
And I did send Robert out an email, kind of seeking his intention with the board, but I did not hear back from him.
I usually just.
And I sent a reminder 3 days ago.
It looks like. Yeah. Well, with my level of patience, I just pick up the phone at that point. Or I Zoom somebody.
Well, I didn't want to be pushy.
I am. If it's not for me, I can be. If it's for me, then I have trouble. Okay, trying to get this off to. Here we go. Do.
Did anybody look at their bylaws after all the changes were accepted? And
I looked what you sent me, and it looked fine to me. I think I'm so tired of the bylaws.
So we're gonna hang for a minute, see where we end up in a few minutes. How would you like to proceed? We don't necessarily have a quorum at this point.
Yeah, we don't really, do we, actually?
No, let's give it well, let me send this out and then let's give them a few minutes and then we'll,
I'm fine to wait.
yeah.
How's
I was
Linda
on-
doing?
Go ahead.
How's Linda doing?
Oh, let's just say that knowledge is power. So she had a CAT scan and everything looks good. And
Oh, good.
yeah, although from her last fall, she does have mild compression fracture at T8. And that seems to be bothering her the most. Been doing a lot of energy work on it. So when she falls asleep, then she allows me to do the work. It's much more powerful when she's out the way. And it works better. Although we had a really good session the other day and get some real good energy releases. So just trying to unpack a little bit to allow that healing to occur that she needs. So yeah, it's better.
Good.
Full moon tends to be a rough time for her. Okay, for any of us really, and not you have to just totally be cognizant of what lane you're in all the time. I think around this time, because of the pull, you can get pulled into a pit, or you can get elevated, to the heavens or anywhere in between. And, so I actually noticed that pattern, right? That's like, wow, that's full. Oh, wow. And so now it's that mindfulness of saying, oh, honey, we're coming into the full moon, and just that awareness of, okay, we just need to be cognizant of where you are. Anybody ever read Isaac Asimov's book about the moon? It's really a good book. But it just talks about, the way the moon works in the world.
Asimov was always one of my favorite writers growing up because he could write scientific books, but he'd also write excellent science fiction. He was able to work them both, which I always found fascinating. And they're really fairly similar. So
Yeah, good science fiction has got to be based in good science fact.
Yep, true.
Otherwise it don't work.
And it's funny, if you go back and look at some of the science fiction from 30, 40 years ago, guess what? It's not fiction anymore.
Yeah.
I did a spell a few months ago where I did 30s to the 50s kind of programming in science fiction, and it's funny that I remember being a young kid and my uncle watching, they called it creature features. That's what they called it, and it came on like at midnight or something. And so my parents would go out and he'd watch us as kids, and he'd be there watching them. And I mean, you'd be scared out of your wits, and you watch it now and it's like comical, it's like, but I saw another really good documentary. It's about, 6 parts. And it was the history of filmmaking from the beginning to about 2010. And that was just really interesting to see how it progressed with the adaptation of light and vision and things, and how they used
and talkies,
depth, and just and it really brought a lot of insight into perception, right? And how you can create perception using shadows and light.
A really interesting point you might notice when you're looking at old films as well is there's a lot of silence in them. There's not a constant background music reel, and I think it just sort of mirrors very much what we're like modern day as well, isn't it? It is people always need noise on. I like silence.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's-
the people they'll just have the telly on for comfort, or a radio, or some constant background noise. And it's the same with with the
Distraction that
film.
separates us.
Interesting, isn't it? That
Yeah.
even when someone's talking, there's music going on in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's how did that work? I remember when I had some of my history of theater and television classes, in the beginning when they added sound to the movies, it was really sketchy, and it would sometimes be like fingernails on, yeah. And so they played background music to kind of hide that. And sometimes
Oh, okay. So like
Yeah.
yeah.
They were
That
kind of
makes
cloaking it from behind, but sometimes they got too loud. So you had those really soapy ones. All you really heard was the music. You could see lips moving. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting study, actually.
Yeah, well, it was good. They did a really good job, and you know, people might tend to think that Hollywood is the origination of many of the things that drove it, but in fact, they're not. Hong Kong, you know, Russia drove a lot of the early changes in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Hi, Shami.
Hi, Shami.
Hi, I'll be a little silent for a minute because I'm getting coffee. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Kind of muted coming through, but
Yeah.
coffee cups a clanking.
Well, let's see if anybody answered the email. We have a quorum. If I don't know if we want to do anything, but anyway. Whoops. Perfect. No, I don't see anybody at the moment.
All right.
Christopher may be putting cold water on his eyes. I don't know. Because, yeah, I think it's pretty early for him. Everybody got the thing last minute, so it may not work. So be it.
Like music. That's that you were just talking about.
Yeah, I
was
wonder.
actually. Oh,
Sorry, I was going to say, I wonder if Alian and Chris have sort of not cottoned on to the fact that we're doing it an hour earlier.
Yeah,
I know we kind of talked about that.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, we talked about it again last time, but they may not have internalized the message. Alian's usually pretty good at that stuff. Chris, not so much. Whoops.
Can't hear you. I see you talking, but we can't hear you, Shelley.
We see you talking, but we can't hear the words.
Oh, this little, it's like you're rocking us.
Oh, she's aboard ship. Cool.
Mm.
Chat.
It took me about 2 years of having this ball chair and kind of switching it back and forth between the conventional office chair. And I moved my office from the upstairs loft down to a downstairs bedroom when Linda got pancreatitis. And I forced myself, I didn't bring the chair with me. I brought the ball, and I have fun with it. You know, you can move around, but you can balance, right? So I'll be sitting in these long, boring meetings, just kind of centered, you know. But if regular chairs bother your back, the ball chair is really cool. So it's got a nice cover on it that kind of holds you together.
I've sat on those balls before, and it's good and it feels okay on my back. But at some point, if I'm in something, I forget and I end up rolling off. I only do it when I'm alone now.
So now that we've got a quorum, do we want to get on with some things, or do we feel that we don't have enough of us?
We could get on with some things, I suppose.
I
What do you
think so
guys think?
too, as long as we have quorum.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So does someone like to open this morning?
You know, why don't I open this morning since Shannon's a friend too? Creator, universe, God, Wakatanka, great mystery. It is the sanctuary circle here once again. Here opening another meeting. Here doing the work of the Earth Mother, we humans, and the universe. Here sending out love to shift and change energies. Here helping to connect people in a more harmonious way. We thank you for this amazing group that is formed around this work. For those who are able to be here, for those who are not, for those just supporting us. And we ask for all the resources we'll need as we move ahead. We would ask you to give special blessing, special energy, special whatever she needs to our sister Shannon Crossbear, a woman of amazing spirit and amazing gifts and skills. She works with the young people, but she also has tribal duties, which we all respect and honor. We ask that Shannon be able to finish the part of the duties she's trying to right now and clear her way a little bit and join us in a more positive way when she has the time, so we can welcome in her energy and skills. Everything we ask for us, for those who are part of us, we ask so we can help to heal the sacred hoop wherever it is broken, the hoop that is really broken now, and just be a small link to correcting some of the things that need to be corrected and building the other things into a stronger way. Om Mitakwayase. All my relations. Anyone else want to add anything? We be good. And I think I saw something that Shami sent that she's up in the redwoods at the moment, my most sacred place on the planet. So send us that redwood energy, Shami.
All right. Whew. We ended last time really at maybe what could be our vision statement. I saw it in a tagline on an email. I thought it was nice. I think Jim sent it out, and there it was. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty powerful statement. Oh wait, I know that statement. and so really, you talked about a vision, right? That is that our vision statement that Sodom is creation through spirit guided, earth led, heart centered proactivism.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I know I wasn't there for the last half of that discussion, but I watched it. It was really, really rich discussion, and it was cool to hear everybody's thoughts on it. And I would like to offer an alternative because I still struggle and don't really resonate at all with the word proactivism. I've never seen myself as an activist, and I see myself as a steward. So I'm wondering how people felt about stewarding, because if we're earth informed or guided by Mother Earth, I do think it's more like of a stewardship, and I think education can come under that as well. Just wanted to offer that and see how everybody felt, because the proactivism for me is not resonant.
That's interesting. I find every time that we're a steward of something, we're also an activist for its protection or growth or whatever. And I think we probably use proactivists in different ways. Could we?
A lot of mostly background noise from your side, Shawnee. Yeah, and I know we discussed, activism. People think of, I guess protests or actions.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I think we hit on that a little bit. Whereas the proactivism is where we landed that way.
Yeah, I can understand why there is a lack of feeling a resonance. I mean, the word activism pushes a trigger, doesn't it? Even if we are defining it in a particular way, and it doesn't necessarily mean demonstrating, which is sort of why we added the pro on. So when I get that, I don't think stewarding is strong enough for what we were trying to say, because it's about action and it's about pro-action. So rather than have a trigger, because it can be a bit of a trigger word, activism, so maybe we just take the V out and it's pro-action. Would that sit more comfortably with you, Tanya?
The words just spun different for me. Same words. Is Sodom spirit guided, earth led, heart centered creation? Just my mind, we're at work.
Yeah.
Creation of what?
Whatever's in the mission statement, right? Because I see this as is your mission then has to fall out of your vision, right? What does it mean, creation? And so I wrote all those words down: creation, spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, and proactivism. I wrote that down as well. Because you could create a really nice visual with your vision statement or your mission statement, tying it back to your vision statement, and then using the words within your vision to define what your mission is, because it really should kind of work that way in a sense. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, as a human being, as well as any being, actually, everything we think, let alone everything we do, is an act of creation. It has ripples.
Yeah.
It's an energy. It moves, it shifts, it does things. We are beings of creation, not just because we are created, but we are constantly creating.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's an easier word for me for sure to connect with.
well,
Rather than,
yeah, you have a really good point too, because when you do this, the vision is supposed to be that highest piece of your work. So it's also the broadest. And then from there you step down. It's the funnel thing.
Yeah.
So we're only putting in one piece of it if we say activism or pro-activism. I just put up as co-creators with Mother Earth and all her beings. That might be a little too woo-woo, but I'll bet you Christopher knows. Okay, Christopher, what's the answer?
we were talking about replacing the word proactivism as a suggestion. That was my suggestion, not a decision or anything.
Replacing proactivism.
Yeah, and
Actively
statement.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's active involvement in a process. Because proactivism is almost can be like protesting and stuff like that, whereas we're looking at creating something which preserves the earth, teaches people to get back in touch with it. Can you put the question to me again, please?
So the thought was, because I wasn't here last week for the last bit, and I heard the discussion about the activism and proactivism, and really I understand a lot of what was said and resonate with a lot of it. I still don't really resonate with the word proactivism as part of the vision. And the word that came to me was stewardship, but one of the comments was just that stewardship isn't strong enough. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't include the action, which I don't necessarily see that way, but I can also get that. So I'm totally open to a different word. There was something else that when I saw you, show me your note there, I did think of something else, and it like just as quickly left my brain again. So if it comes back, I'll let you know.
One of the things we've got here is people have taken it. What's that quote in the Bible where they justify, like we were given the earth to look after essentially, but it's been interpreted by most people as we can go and rape and pillage the earth. And almost the words you're using there, Tanya, they're indicative of the same thing, stewardship. Oh, then if I'm looking after it, I can do what we want with it. Whereas, that was that we're given dominion over the earth and the creatures and stuff like that. We've almost got to imply that we're actually looking after everything, that we're actually responsible for its life, for its continued existence. And I'm not sure how we do that in a short word. You must need a statement for it, because we've got to remove that doubt.
It is part of the statement. It's not about reducing it to one word. It's that word within the statement that Tanya's not happy with.
Yeah, and I super understand what you're saying there. And that was exactly why I picked the word stewardship. It's interesting. We have a different orientation to it. So that's cool to hear, because to me, stewardship is like an act of sacred looking after
Yes.
and keeping. But if you say there is other connection with that, then that won't work. Regeneration is a word that popped into my mind. I don't know that it necessarily quite fits in this thing, but it just kind of popped in. Regenerative.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because so many words have connotation, regardless of what their definitions are. And we need to try and be as neutral as possible, so that anything we pick is going to mean what it means that we want it to mean, no matter who hears it. So it is important that we get the words right, and if it's affecting us in this way, then it needs to change, doesn't it?
Somehow
I put
I'm,
the definition of proactive in the chat, because it is part of, I believe, what we're trying to do is intervene in unexpected occurrence situations. But I also heard Chris, and I was headed there with him when maybe it's more than one word, right? If I look up stewardship in the dictionary, control is part of that, right? It's part of that definition.
That's the
It
problem
has
with
more to
stewardship.
do with protection and trust, but at the same time, yeah, I guess in some cases it could signify control.
So back to the first time I went to Standing Rock, back to our discussion there, they were going to call it, and they were starting to call it Standing Rock protesters. And I suggested protectors after LaDonna and I spoke. And that was because somebody else suggested stewards, positive stewards of our land and resources, something like that. The discussion from there went into, well, what's a steward? Well, a steward is to help to protect and keep things. However, for them, somebody brought up, well, that implies it's okay the way it is, and we're going to keep it that way. And that's not what we want to do.
no, if people have that connection with it, then definitely not. I totally don't. So that's really.
I don't know. I don't either. I don't either. But I saw their point.
Yeah, that's really good to think about. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just sort of reading through it again, and sort of listening to what everyone is saying. We've already got the word creation, so whether we change that to co-creation or leave it as creation, we've already got that one. But can we simply change it from proactivism to action? It's simple. It says it, and it doesn't have other connotations. So it would read, Sotium is creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered action. Or is that too simplistic?
How about protective action?
Well, that's sort of like saying it's activism. Guys, sort of.
I don't see activism as protection at all, but yeah. Yeah. It's better for sure. Yeah. I can't think of anything, like the only thing I could come up with stewardship, and then hearing your thoughts on that, I'm like, yeah, that's not right either.
In my model, when I talk about it, is action, prayer, education, and ceremony. So if we highlight action, what are the others?
And yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe it is more of a couple of other things added to it.
And maybe that gets spelled out in the mission.
Yeah, because it leaves it quite broad as well. I mean, action isn't tying the word down to it meaning something specific. It leaves it still quite loose. So it can be any form of action. It could be protective action. It could be creative action.
Yeah, the best practice is to make it as a higher level so that you're not constantly going back and correcting some specificity in it that you've changed your mind. It should be able to guide you for a long time to come. I did pick up on your co-creation. I do like, is it co-creation?
That could be nice, actually. Added there. Sotium is co-creation from spirit-guided, heart-centered, earth-centered. Too many centers.
Yeah, that's a little too many descriptives, maybe.
Yeah, you can make it heart and earth centered if you wanted, but you just put to watch the too many words, I think.
Yeah.
So
I think-
in the beginning, I was thinking, you said co-creation. Is Sodom is co-creation through spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, blah, blah, blah. I just picked up on that. And as I was sitting here and kind of meditating on it last night, this morning, it's like, well, it isn't just Sodom, right? It's us. The circle should grow, right? And whatever this speaks to should speak to the circle and not speak directly to Sodom.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's more than
Well, no,
the board. It's
vision-
more than, so because sometimes that becomes like the upper management mantra, right? Or in a sense, right? The visions and the missions and the marketing statements and all those tend to sometimes separate the people. And so then it came to me like, okay, well, spirit guided, right? Well, isn't just us being spirit guided, but us educating people on being spirit guided, us giving people opportunities to be in spirit guided settings, ceremony. When I thought about earth led, I thought about, well, is that the people that do it? Right? Because we talked about hearing Mother Earth, right? But it's also earth led in a way that, well, here we are, these spiritual earthly beings, right? Trying to facilitate some, bring people together to help move things. So when I thought that we are, if I looked at that one way, it's like Sodom is creation, and that's what we do, but it's what we do with everybody. So I like the co-creation part, because that, to me, that kind of helped that part that said Sodom is co-creating, which means they're working with others. They're in a cooperative way. Just my rant from what went through my mind.
A vision of an organization, as I've always taught it and learned it, is to give that broad picture of what it is, so people can see if they are interested and want to be part of it. So the vision is definitely about the organization and those in it.
Oh, yeah, but it should speak to those people that aren't in it, right?
That's the point. Yeah, if oh, this looks good, I want to be part of this. That's what it does. Or, nah, not my cup of tea. I'll just go off and be a badass somewhere.
Okay, there's a suggestion I've popped in the chat. Listening to everything.
Like the change to action. And I do like the co-creation part, because I think it just creates a wider, more room around it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like this, because the one thing, we'll go woo-woo here. The Earth said to me recently, and I've said this before, we've got to listen to her guidance, and our actions need to come from her guidance, because we've been listening to our heads, not to her.
Yeah.
And we've literally, she is now our guide, our manager. We are co-managers, or here you've got show him as co-creation through spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, which is what it is. That virtually matches what she's asked for. We are working with her under her direction, her management, her guidance. And we've got to stop listening to ourselves as a separate being. So what
Like
you've
the
put
boots.
there, Louise. Yeah. Oh, what was that again, Don?
I was just going to say, we're like the boots on the ground, right? We're
Literally.
being led. Yeah, we're the boots on the ground. We need to carry it out, because,
Yeah,
in
we're
a
the
sense,
gardener. Yeah, we're the gardeners. She's the manager.
there you go. I like that.
Yeah, well, it's her guidance, it's her direction. That's what she's been doing all this time, is looking after her children. She's done it through providing plants, air, water, earth for them to walk on. She's provided everything, and we've come and disturbed that balance. We're looking at teaching people to come back into that balance.
Mhm.
That's what she's asking for, to work in balance with her, which is her direction, her guidance. The processes she has naturally installed in the earth already. Instead of us interfering with it, we're co-leaders, co-workers, co-supporters, co-participants in her processes, not separate from her processes, which is what we've done. And we see the results of that today.
Mhm.
So let's all go on the streets and protest.
I'm ready.
Yeah, she's actually asked me not to do that. She says it's not about trying to replace what is wrong,
Nope.
because that is just more conflict. We're
Yep.
supposed to show how we do this in harmony with her, in alignment with her, that works for us, it works for her. Everything benefits from a natural process that's in balance and harmony.
Yeah.
Did somebody record that? Yeah, we're recording, aren't we?
Yes,
I
we
thought
are.
that was a good little rant.
And as I thought about that, I came across a thought process that
Oh,
took me down a road that that
throw
really
something
created
in.
some awareness about
Yeah.
tying yourself back the other way, right? Because we've shifted so far away from that as a culture, and that Jim has said we're not here to address the symptoms, because and as I thought about that, I thought, well, if we were addressing the symptoms, we would need to be activists.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
We
co
have to
yeah.
be stomping on doorsteps and banging down doors, because I thought, well, if we're not here, in a sense, if we're not here, then to change what is, because what is going to fall and implode upon itself over time. We just have to move the collective consciousness over the other way.
Yes.
It's not about fighting what's happening, because you can't fight $650 billion in military spending that we spend in America, and most of that is to defend America against itself.
Yeah.
We're one of the few countries whose forts are all over within the continent. They're not on the edges to protect it from other people. It's inside itself, and we started with the whole thing, and so that whole thought process occurred to me. Around full moon, I kind of go to that activism place, because it stirs inside of me the anger that I feel, because now my grandson, whose rent 6 months ago would have been $600 in the city, is now $1,200 for 600 square foot, no cabinets. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to keep bringing myself back to, okay, this place that takes us in this collective consciousness, right?
Yeah.
That's where I hit upon. We can't fight what is, because we can't win. We really can't. You can't win against the United States of America, the government of Europe. You can't win against that, but we can win with collective shift of consciousness.
Yeah. Yes. Because
I
part of what I was going to say, what we've got already is that model that's based on separation. We have to show the model and live from the one that's connected, and we see the oneness of things, we see the connection of things. We're the living example of that through action, word, deed, behavior, everything. We're co-participants in this process, seeing ourselves, we appear in separate forms, but we're not. We're part of a whole, and we've got to come from that place, not from a place of separation. And I think our words have got to reflect that. So how do we look at being
Totally agree. And something that was going through my mind today about this whole misunderstanding of oneness, wholeness, and that we are all part of the same organism, is that that translates as same. We're not the same. We're not all the same. We are all one, but we are not all the same.
No.
And it's this homogenization and this need to homogenize.
Yes.
It seems to be the answer to this. Well, we're all one, and it's that misunderstanding that non-dual oneness is not sameness. It's complete and utter individuality, but total connection. And one of the greatest analogies for that is the weave, whether it's a rug or a cloth or whatever it is, and I come across it lots in my head when I'm thinking about it, is that if you want to weave a multicolored carpet, blanket, cloth that mirrors the diverse beauty that is life on this planet, you need the pure threads. So whilst you're weaving those pure threads into whatever design you want, that they all sit in the weave together, and they together create another lovely pattern, design, picture, whatever you want it to be. Without the pure threads, then there is nothing but bland brown. So it's important that one of the things that we're doing is holding that lineage, holding those pure threads, making sure that we gather all of the pure threads and keep them pure. But we're not keeping them pure just so that we can weave blankets all of the same color.
Yeah.
They're so that they can also be woven together. But you know, is that they have to be kept pure and clear, but they also need to be woven together, and that's the balance. And I think that's where people misunderstand, and where there ends up being a big argument, is that either we're trying to homogenize, or we're so terrified of being homogenized that we've got to keep our line, our lineage here, and you can't have any of it. You know, there are ways of weaving that work, and sometimes, yes, you know, you want one color, it looks great. And other times you want a pattern because it looks good too. That's the only way I can describe it. So we have to be very, very careful. And maybe that being careful in our language is that we simply have to define each time. Because there is always going to be a diversity of understoodness in any word. Like my daughter sending me a message to when I sent her a picture of my painting, she goes, "Oh mum, that's sick." So I replied back with "That's the good sick, isn't it?" And she went, "Yeah, it's really good." And it's like, So that's an example of how, you know, through the generations, and we span many generations, and we span many continents, and we span different languages, and we span different cultures. We cannot expect any word to mean the same for everybody. It doesn't. So yeah, we be very, very careful, and we do have to be very careful. Words are hugely powerful. We create with them. They're spells. They make magic. But sometimes we also have to define and redefine.
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. I guess the one thing I was looking at some other vision statements of other organizations, and I think the other thing that I feel with this is I love all the words individually except the proactivism, but it really doesn't say at all what we'll do. And I understand that the vision is the broader category, and it's the wider picture. That's totally fine, but it still has to somewhat say what it is that we do, which this really doesn't. Creation through, like, it doesn't help people go, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that, or no, I don't want to be a part of that, because it is too vague, I think.
I think that's the next step down, Tanya. That's when you get into
Yeah, I understand that, but I think it still isn't really like what creation, like the direction of, I put a post in here, just a link to some nonprofit vision statements, just for comparison. Sort of see, because they do get pretty clear on what they're doing, and maybe we can, somebody said something earlier that now I forgot too, that I'm
That's why I'm writing.
yeah, is it something, since we are going to something about through education, ritual and ceremony, or something, like somebody said that earlier. And maybe it is creation through spirit guided, earth led, heart centered education, ceremony, and ritual. And maybe that is too broad, maybe that's too narrow, but something sort of
Yeah.
in the direction.
So we could start it out with then to create a more healthy, sustainable earth through blah, 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 and take it from there.
Yeah, you could define that creation piece,
Yeah.
right? Which kind of becomes,
And then
what are we
that's still,
creating?
right, that still works, because then when you get down to the mission, you can elaborate on, okay, what steps are we going to take to accomplish that?
I still think it's pretty clear. It depends what you're doing. I mean, I haven't looked at that not-for-profit statement because I difficulty getting onto other internet while I'm on Zoom, so I'll have a look at it later. But for what it is we're doing
Mhm.
and what we want to do, which is quite broad,
Yeah. Yep.
I actually think those words say it quite distinctly, because
Okay.
it is about acting in a way, teaching in a way, and being in a way that is completely different. And that way
Yes.
Yeah.
is earth led, spirit guided, and heart centered.
Which
And that's
to me
what it is.
actually says it all.
Yeah, that's what it is. And there's many ways in which we can manifest that or act upon that. But it has to be at the center of everything. If we don't hold those three principles in all that we do and all that we think, to me, that's sort of our core, if you like. So whether we're gathering stories, or we're gathering histories, or we're gathering knowledge, or whether we're sharing knowledge, teaching things, whether we are conducting ceremony, whether we are holding space, whether we are teaching permaculture, whether we are teaching land connection, it all has to be spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, co-creation, because we have to step out of this human addiction to superiority. So we have to, that has to be a central word. I think that co-creation, I think, is a much better way of putting it. It immediately puts us not on the top. And then everything is an action, isn't it? So whilst I get what you say, Tanya, that it seems a bit non-specific, but actually I sort of think it is. Sorry to argue with you there, but
Yeah,
I can,
that's fine. Here's where I'm coming from and all of
Yeah.
that. All I've learned over my years of being involved in anything is that when I'm confused, it's an issue later on. I don't usually often know why I'm confused. I can't get to I'm not the solutionary, but I'm there to point out that something's missing, that something's not quite congealing, and it may not be a big issue, but we might just come around to eventually refining it, right? Like, but that's what I know about needing to speak when I feel confused, whether I know what it's about or not. And like, this statement to me right now is confusing a little bit. I can get with it if we take the word proactivism route out. I can totally get with it. Just voicing that's really all.
I guess for me, when Tanya was talking, what I was feeling was, and maybe it isn't there, maybe I'm not feeling it right either. To what end are we doing this? To what end are we are we working with each other in the earth? Well, it's to create
Where
a,
you might add to, right, after action, to, right? And I mean, that's the only way to define the result of what you want. So the most common thing about the 30 statements that I just read on the nonprofit site was that there is an indication of what the result of what they're doing is, which is not here in this statement. So if Sodom is co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered action, that, right, that does something,
right,
or that delivers something, if that's how far the definition would need to go. Whereas action can be, you know, and a lot of what Louisa reiterated is really, she reiterated from last week, in the sense that as we took all them sticky notes and kind of deduced it down, we kind of came up with these 3 real core fundamental things that resonated with the group. And then the reason, you know, we went proactivism is because of activism tends to be, you know, I'm holding a sign, or, you know, they're firing pepper spray at me type things. So it really depends on how far you want to go with it, right? Because as a short statement, it resonates with me because I can see all that's in it. But that's also, you know, part of my gift is being able to take little bits of things and see all that is in it, and what needs to occur to make it happen, you know, very quickly, you know. But we
With
didn't want
yours,
to constrain ourselves either, right? And we didn't want to, if you said that does this, this, and this, well, then you kind of box yourself in, and that, you know, if that vision changes or what you want to do, that changes, then you're back to rewriting your vision statement as well. So it would still have to be a broad that, you know, that we deliver something.
I totally agree with that. But it is about, it's like a marketing message in the sense that people can't identify if they don't understand what it is we're about. And if it's too broad, then a lot of people will go, oh, that's nice.
No,
not
I
gonna
get it. Yeah.
Not going to get behind, oh, I need to be a part of that, versus where it is a little more confined. People can go, yes, I fit that. That is me. I can get behind this, and I can work with this, and I can support these folks.
Right. And I work very much with some folks that have worked together for a very long time, who needed all pretty well spelled out for them in the beginning. You can't use high-level Donnie Butler statements, right? I can start it, but they got to finish it, because that's not what I do, right? In a sense, right? Like I can give them the vision and the small statement, but then they have to add the that to it, right? In a sense, because they need to see that specificity and I don't. And so I tend to then you know, how far do we take it, and can we add to it in a way that doesn't constrain it? Shami, you got your hand there?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Much better than the other place.
Great. Gotta love the library. So I was going back to, you know, what is our goal, right? And isn't I think to me, our goal is to drive and proliferate conscious action in our global community that's heart-centered, spirit-driven, and earth-led. And it seems like we are stewards of the land that almost translate and communicate between the two to show how people can live more consciously and act more consciously. To me, that seems like our ultimate basic, simple goal and vision. What the world would be like if our goals were completed is everyone would be creating action, conscious action that's heart-centered, earth-led, and spirit-driven. And so when I bring it back to that simplicity, I don't think it has to, I feel like the vision and mission are counterparts. They're like the yin and yang of each other. And I feel like the vision, if it gets, I like the end idea, Tanya, of maybe having a few core things that drives that action, like the education, the ceremony. And I think archives is really important to me. But I don't know, it's hard to limit that into a few words without it becoming too long of a vision.
I agree.
Because I feel like the mission to me is where that expands.
I agree. And I think what Louisa just put in the chat for me kind of hits it on the head, is that that's what we're trying to get to, is right relationship with, right to live in right relationship. And so I think that would totally fix it for me if that was resonant with others.
In the right, co-create in right relationship.
Yeah, I think for people to coming into right relationships, so however we word it, but that is essentially the goal, right? Is
Yeah.
being in balance, being in right relationship, being in harmony with nature, whatever way we want to say it. I think that is the missing piece.
I think the
Yeah, that's a
influence-
beautiful way to put that. In right relationship, I think definitely like some different words to describe that, because I think that a lot of people don't know what is right being in right relationship. So any of the passerby might be like, I really don't understand that. But I like that is the basic goal. That was absolutely right.
Yeah, it could also be just simply harmony with nature or balance with nature, any of those things, whatever, however we want to define it. That I'm a lot less hung up on, but I feel like that was the piece that was sort of missing from the vision.
Symbiosis comes to mind, symbiotic relationships.
Both of those have opportunity, right relationship. Yeah, go woo-woo again. The earth is nodding her head to right relationship and also to symbiosis. Because when I was looking at the word action, didn't feel right for me because that's very physical. We're members, we're participants. So I was looking at suggesting swapping action from members or participants, but right action is also that, because it's already established by earth-led, heart-guided. Now, people need to learn what that is because they don't at the moment. They come from their heads. So what is heart? We teach people how to listen to their hearts, how to listen to their guidance, how to listen to the earth. Yeah, she's nodding her head flat out to this. Yeah, so what you guys have just suggested and what you've got to put there, Tanya, that I've got to look at it again. Yeah, it works. And what did you say, Shami? You put a word,
Symbiosis, symbiotic.
Yeah, because we're all part of that. Comes back to what you said, Louisa, that like that woven mat. Like if one thread is out of place or is missing, the whole thing doesn't, it's not a complete carpet, it's not a complete tapestry, it's not a complete weave of life. We're a part of the web of life, we're not separate from it. And it's understanding the web that we're participants in and active homogenization, really, of this one thing. We're not separate from this one thing. We're participants, we're pieces, we're parts of this web. So yeah, short word of, no, that was a long way of saying I agree with right action and what you said, Shami, to that word. Yeah.
So is it heart-centered participation and weaving together? Something, right? You kept saying weaving, right? So, you know, weaving together, you know, for the future, right? I mean, we're here to be influencers in a way, right? To bring people together.
We've got to teach people how to live these processes, because we've been living as separate beings. They know how to listen from separation, but you know, how do you listen to the earth? Most people haven't got a clue. So we're guides, we're stewards, we're partners with the earth to help people listen to the parts that need to be listened to. Indigenous cultures have ways of doing this, but myself as a Western cultural person, I'm not aware of being taught this anywhere. You know, I just happen to hear nature for some reason. So I'm going back to Louise's statement. I like that. Right action to me comes off. That last word, action, is the one I felt needed to be shifted because it's physical, but right action. And
Yes.
as you said, Jeremy, I keep forgetting the
Right
word you said, Jeremy.
relationship. Chris,
Yeah.
is right relationship, not right action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Whereas they might say over in Louise's way, we do it in a proper fashion. So some of the indigenous people have an easier time with this for a lot of reasons, but one that I was aware of quickly years ago is that they understand that we are one of the players and part of the weave, but we're actually a minor one compared to many of the others. You know, if humans died, it has no real effect on the planet. If bees die, we die, and so do a lot of other creatures. And it's a long list. So really, who's more critical to continued existence? It's not us. And yet, especially in Western cultures, that's what we've been taught. Because we have a brain, we're very important. And look what we've done with the brain so far. So we have to, maybe we need shock therapy, I don't know.
When I did a little bit of in my psychology training, I did studying the brain as far as it pertains to emotions, and the brain, well, the mind, I suppose. Anyway, the brain is just a ganglion, and we have lots of them. It just happens to be the largest ganglion, and a ganglion is just a collection of cells that mass together because it's a processing unit, but it's not the only processing unit, and it does a particular type of processing, and it's not actually a particularly conscious processing unit, because the other processing units down our central cortex and all the rest tends to be slightly more conscious than the big ganglion at the top that does a lot of
signals.
visual
It's getting its
translating.
communication. We think the brain communicates, but it's really the other ganglia communicating to the brain, and then the brain responding to that in a lot of ways at that level.
Actually, a lot of our responses and a lot of the way we act and behave doesn't have anything to do with the brain. Doesn't even get there. It's the other units have already decided what the relevant response is. It doesn't. You don't know what your liver's doing. You don't know that it's having a response to the smell that you're smelling from the food cooking in the kitchen. But it's already preparing the right juices for you to digest that food. Your brain doesn't know what it's doing. The brain's not responding to that puff of wind that stroked past you, but your whole system has just recalibrated itself to make sure that you don't blow over, but your brain's had nothing to do with it. So it has very little to do with most of what we do and how we exist. So why we have such a fixation upon it, I haven't got a clue. It's a pretty dumb organ, actually, out of all of the organs that we could pick to think we're so special. We pick the dumbest. Sorry.
Which is
No,
why
I like that. I study a lot of neurology, neurological science. I like that one.
Yeah, no, the brain. So, oh, look, there's a train rushing at me. Let me think, should I move? So that's not very conducive to continued existence.
yeah.
So a lot of these things have to be, you're right. There's no time for it to get to the brain and be worked on. And that's also why probably some of you guys, but when we do any healing work or spiritual work, first thing you got to do is work with the people to get them out of their heads and into their hearts and their guts, because that's where the emotional stuff is processed.
And
Yeah.
that's right relationship.
Yes. Yes.
And if you come into right relationship in yourself, then you will come into right relationship with everything else. But there's many ways of getting there. So, you know, you can get to right relationship with yourself via learning to be in right relationship with other things. But ultimately, if you are in right relationship, you are in right relationship to everything.
Yes, because your heart-centered statement is that part of right relationship instead of being egoic based, because the brain in various spiritual schools is referred to as the sleep state. We're waking up from the brain's limitations, restrictions, distractions. By, we get caught up in stories in our brain, they're distractions. You imagine, like we were saying before, if we were put in charge of breathing or heart rate, it's like, oh, phone call, oops, dead. The brain can't manage those things. It's not put in charge of vital things. The other parts was operate the vital things, our balance, our walking, our breathing, our heart rate. We're not intelligent enough and coordinated enough to look after that, but the heart-based, the spirit-guided, all that stuff already takes care of all of that, same as the mechanisms of life. And referring to your statement, Jim, of how important we are, the image I got shown is the mountains are more important by us because they gather waters and they direct those waters across the land, so the rivers are more important, the shorelines are more important, we keep the ocean in its place, and we've given land to the animals that live here, which is we're one of. We're not that important. We're these little things that run around scurrying, doing things to the natural processes that are already in action through mountains, through flatlands, through grasslands, through trees, through air. I'm ranting again.
So out of all that, is there more change we want, or more words we want, or are we kind of stuck? Are we overthinking it? Are we?
Can you read it again, Don, with some of these additions?
Well, I still have the Sodomus co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered action from Louisa's statement. Now, I haven't had any that's for right relations, not knowing where you might want them.
You could probably just swap action for right relationship. So it would read Sotium is co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered, right relationship.
Does that speak to everyone in a way?
I can't hear you.
Where did I go?
Can we say it one more time, or can you say it one more time?
Totem is co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered, right relationship.
I don't think that makes sense to me with thinking of the global scale of people, because even Jim was just saying, I love the word symbiotic as a concept, but people need a dictionary. And that to me is more confusing on the ground,
So why don't we make it even simpler? So Sotium is co-creation through right relationship, because right relationship is spirit guided, and it is earth led, and it is heart centered. So you don't need to reiterate all of that.
Love that.
So
Love
that really simplifies it. But is that too simple?
Will they be running for a dictionary again? I don't know.
Well,
Shami brings up a really good point. Who are we writing this for?
So, to fall in love with water will generate.
We're writing it for people to know if they can get behind us or not, if they can support this vision, if they can.
But who? But who?
We're
Can we,
looking
can
to
we
be-
type what, can we type it in the chat box so I can see it visually?
That's good.
Someone's co-create, oh, you just did, thank you. Co-creation through right relationship. I almost want to put the word, right before I put Sodomus global co-creation, guiding balance with Earth Mother through spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, yada, yada. So maybe through right relationship. But I do like the word global in there because it shows that the greater scale is everyone, including. And I do like kind of saying guiding balance of sorts, because we are that medium between Earth Mother and human, and creating symbiotic relationships between.
And
So
some of
what-
our words, I think, are very specific to the type of people we are, right? We
Mhm.
understand what right relationship means. We understand what some of these words mean. But if we're really trying to get the masses, we need words that the masses understand. I was watching
Exactly.
a series that's really cute, like most European things that I get to watch, English stuff. But anyway, somebody travels back in time and they have this little scene there, and she says, "Oh, well, I don't know how to love anybody. I have attachment issues." Well, she was back in 1919 and nobody had any clue at all what an attachment issue was.
Yeah.
And the movie's kind of got those things in it, right? Using phrases
Yeah.
or words that, who are you? You're strange. I think spirit guided, earth led, and heart centered can speak to about anybody. People are always looking for connection.
Mhm.
People are always figuring out, how to be led or how to get centered, or even if they don't use those words, but they would resonate, I think, with people. Whereas if we chop all that out of there, we take it down to a statement that we understand pretty well. But I think 80% of humanity may not, right? Or 50% or whatever it is.
Agreed. I agree with that. I do like having those three terms. It's spirit, earth, heart. People know that.
Well, it came out of the other 5 hours of work that we did. So we can't not think they're not important, right? Because that's what fell out of all that work, was those core things that
Yeah.
Lisa brought us back to, early in the meeting when she restated it. And we're just here to create actions, in a sense, do some kind of activities, have some kind of influence in a very co-creative way, right? Through all the connections. And is our end goal? What's the end goal? Is it to, protect the future generations, to enhance the world as it is today? So kind of going back, is there a that in here? Or are we overthinking?
Yeah, the piece I always come back to, and that's like super detail and super specific, but like, what are we wanting in right relationship? It's simple as clean air, drinkable water, edible, nutritious food, and for people to live in harmony and just like do the right thing, whatever our definition of that is. Yeah, I don't know that I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm seeing my old elder, two bears, reading this and laughing and saying, "Oh, look, they're trying to sound like natives." And even most natives wouldn't know what that means. That's all.
Are we here to co-create through spirit-guided, heart-led, earth-centered connections? Because then I've just opened the door, right? I've just said, I'm here to connect with you. Just flew into my brain.
Yes, without the S on it.
I can dig that.
Connection, not connections.
Okay, say it again, Don.
Yeah.
So Sodom is co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. No S.
We
Yes,
add
because
global. Go ahead.
And I was going to say connection takes away concept of separation with S on it. It's like there's multiple. We're not multiple. It's understanding we're part of the living organism and we are just part of it. We've got to play a cooperative part. Otherwise, we are at dis-ease in this system.
I absolutely get, Shami, why you want the word global, and to an extent, I like it, as in when I talk about SOTIUM, I talk about it being a global organization.
Mm-hmm.
Problem I have with it being in the vision is global is a human word about humans and all about human connection. It's not Earth. What is the globe? It's not a ball. So I have a problem with it being in the vision. That's all.
I kind of agree that it in a sense it dilutes it a little because it brings that human factor into it. As I was meditating this morning, kind of toying with myself, realizing that we are all everything, one thing, and that is light. You take everything down to its most constituent part, the earth, the moon, the sky, the air, the water, at the subatomic level is light. And so maybe we're light connections. but in a sense, yeah, trying to get rid of those words that separate. And that could be, in a sense, that's one of them. We think of global, all inclusive. But heck, we may find connections that aren't of this planet, right?
Already there.
We're searching for that connection that's beyond this global aspect of ourselves, right?
Absolutely, that makes sense. Yeah. Why
So
limit ourselves to the earth?
Crazy. I sometimes string things together in a crazy way just to kind of make it different.
Well, we could swap global for universal.
There you go. The I am connection. We're looking for the I. Yeah.
Just to add to what you're saying, Don, part of a breathing technique I've been shown recently, like I walk on the beach, I could see the water as a water. I could see the shoreline as shore, which was gravel covered. I had the trees, I had the air, and she's showing me the rhythm of each one, how to breathe with each one. And then she said, now, are they separate? And they're not. And the connected breath just took me out around the whole globe. I could feel all the trees or every stone on the beach. And it took me out beyond the planet. Because the planet is not separate. We've got our solar system. You can take that as a physical. Yeah. And it just took me out. It was infinite. Now, we could take that word light and take it a step further, because quantum science is tending to look at, we're all just consciousness. We came from that first Big Bang. We're the same point of consciousness expanded into many forms. We are part of the whole thing, as you're saying, not just the earth, everything.
So this co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. And how do we connect? By creating. How do we guide spirit through? I don't know.
Connections through consciousness, where to feel connected, you've got to come out of the thinking brain, which is perception and separation, into both awareness, and through awareness, we catch consciousness. There's various exercises I do with people to help establish connection. And it gets really weird, because if you get really connected with somebody, you can actually feel what the other person's thinking. Like you can literally be in each other's thoughts. There is nothing hidden in that connection. and I get people there.
We get to connection through right relationship.
Connection and right relationship. Maybe that's where right relationship could be added, and people might not lose the whole train, right? As a, you know, just as a thought.
It's just something that maybe we just bear in mind. I think we've got enough words in it, and ultimately, if we're keeping co-creation, and we're keeping earth-led and spirit-guided and heart-centered, and the word connection, well, all of that is right relationship. You don't need to say it again.
Or we can come at it the other way, and we can say,
Make a motion to
well, no, but we can say, oh, come on, brain fart. Come on, what are we saying, Louise? What are we arguing about? What's your
Right relationship, connection, what are we putting in there?
Say right relationship, and then down a little further on that, we could put the definition of right relationship for those who don't know, and they'd learn something. And somebody
So we are co-creating right relationship through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. There you go. You got them all in there.
Yes.
On Tuesday mornings and Friday afternoons. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's like playing
real powerful
words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should I write that in?
Yeah. Yes. Write that in. Yeah. Connection and right action feel appropriate to have together or in the same statement.
What did I say? It's co-creation in right
relationship through
relationship. Yeah.
So connection and right relationship. Sodom is co-creation through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection and right relationship.
Yeah, the way she just said it was co-creating right relationship through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection.
Co-creating right relationship. Yeah, fine. Got it. Okay. Creating. Is that right? Co-creating right relationship through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. Never mind. I missed a D.
And at the bottom of the web page, if anyone has problems with these concepts, please call Louisa at or Christopher at, and we'll have it covered.
So I pulled it out of the chat. The earth-led, heart-centered connection. So Sodom is co-creating right relationship through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. Boy, I like that. I do like that.
That's good.
Everything I'm listening to is nodding its head to this one.
That kind of takes all those concepts to weave it
I don't know,
together.
Kat, are we?
We're serving everyone.
All creatures. What was it? All creatures, great and small. Personally, yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm serving the planet first and then all the creatures behind it. Because without the planet, we got no spaceship.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're serving the planet, you are serving everything else that depends upon that planet.
That's right. You know, the piece earlier too, now it just finally hit my head. I think Louisa was talking about, I don't know how it came up, but I kept thinking circle, and I've been talking about teaching and using working in circle forever. And the big objection that comes up immediately is, oh, I won't be in a circle because then I lose my individuality. So it takes a lot of teaching for people to understand you actually gain. You go in as yourself with your skills, but then you can also tap into others. Most humans do not get that. They see it as you're taking away my individuality. Certainly any that are not awake see that. And we're not talking to them, so.
Because
Yeah,
part
so
of what we're, yeah,
if we move on,
sorry,
that's okay. So probably when we end up moving on to the things that we're actually going to do, one of the first things that needs to be sort of focused on is this understanding of what unity, wholeness, and oneness connection actually means, because it doesn't mean lack of individuality. It doesn't mean homogenization. It doesn't mean sameness.
The recognition of the value of everyone, like your cloth, like your fibers in your weave, right? The recognition of the value of everyone's contribution to what is.
I think there's going to have to be a lot of things that are going to need to be defined. And we should probably have a little glossary dictionary on our accessibility for people, because we're in a conscious revolution right now. And there are a lot of words that we have used that are familiar to us, woo-woo to others, completely not understandable and not used by many of the community. And I think it's a matter of really, I'm learning a lot with starting to teach more and talking to people a lot more about spirit-driven aspects of growth. And people just need definitions. They're not used to the language that we speak so clearly. It's and I think that's going to be really important. So I agree with what you're saying on that. And I think that we have to, I think we're connecting the people, like-mindedness, and people who are intrigued by learning. And I think that through that strength of connection, that's when we'll reach all the people who don't understand as well. It's almost like coming together, strengthening of the conscious mind to be able to put it out there and receive kind of the ones that are in the unconscious realm.
And the younger ones are screaming for it. They really are. I mean, you know, I kind of feel like Dr. Phil sometimes. I mean, people call him for help all the time. But my grandson was very frustrated because he's trying to get something done over the internet and forms and things, and and it's just amazing how complicated it has made it for people who don't really understand to have to deal with life without any help from anyone, right? He had to file for unemployment. You can't call and they won't walk you through it anymore. Oh, you have to go here. Well, it's a complicated mess, right? And his frustration allowed him to get to this point of, I finally told him, I said, you just need to give yourself some space and some grace. And he's like, what's that? I said, space to learn and grow. And I said, the grace to be kind to yourself along the way, right? And so I think there is that need to try and get some of that concept out there in a way that's understandable to people, so that it begins to jive with beyond the circles that how would you say that? Beyond the like-mindedness that exists today. There are many like-minded people like ourselves, but I don't think we're really here to just bring in all the like-minded people. I think we're here to expand way beyond the like-minded people. We're here to bring the like-minded people together in a collective to be able to expand then beyond our current measure, right? That's how I see it. That's what the importance of those connections that we make with other organizations, with other possibilities and creative things that we can bring people into. I think that's the real, to just really expand that. That's what we need, though, that's what we need like-mindedness for, so that we can strengthen that energy that will then create that big new conscious big boom.
Yeah, I see we're creating for the generations that follow. And to do that, we need the like-minded people now. Anyone else who wants to join, hey, you're welcome. But it's up to them to wake up first. I don't think our job is to wake them up. It's to put the material out there, but then they have to grab a hold.
Oh yeah, we give them the resources, right? If they're
Absolutely,
interested
yeah.
and they want to attend that seminar, I told my grandson, it's like, I need to learn how to, I finally asked him this morning, I texted him, I said, well, did you get that thing done? He said, yeah, after I stepped away, because I started him on to the concept of meditation, of, quieting the mind, et cetera. And he's like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, well, Google it, buddy. But at the same time, if we can provide the directions, the links, the seminars, the whatever it is, the space that they can go where it's safe to do that. Because in a lot of ways, in our normal in and out of daily life, a lot of people do it in a sense. A lot of people practice some higher spiritual things, but they're not talking about it at work, right? They're not talking about it, it's all buried right now in a sense. It's coming out, right? I mean, I was there in the 80s in the from the 70s into the 80s, and bringing back the concept. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I realized that I was on that cusp of bringing some of those things back, right? The healing arts, the touch arts, back, and that's only a few years ago. I was just under the assumption, because I was around it as a child, that everybody knew about it, right? I look forward to the connection. That's our key.
Part of me sort of reflects, we're talking to the converted first, but we're making sure they've got the tools to do what we have the knowledge of. A lot of people, they know the words in theory, but they don't have the tools of the doing. And both those are equal parts of the education process. Then we're providing education for those who are not converted, providing the pathways that you're talking, Don. So somebody like your grandson can find the tools, find the resources, or we can point him to this place and he can learn. And that's important.
Yes, and then ultimately we're setting up sanctuaries so that when the shit hits the fan, there's somewhere for them all to go.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, we discussed last week the usefulness of having a dictionary for all these terms. And I felt last week each word has to be seen from a logical point of view, like a brain point of view, from an awareness point of view, and from a conscious point of view. And we do need these explanations and this dictionary.
I'll create a spreadsheet. We'll start on it.
I like your little thing in the chat, Kat. So suppose we're in a lifeboat. I just want to share a story with you. So when I was about 12, I was at the seaside with my friend, and we had been playing in the sea all day, jumping waves, at a particular place in Cornwall, which I didn't know at the time, it is renowned for its rip current and its rip tide. So we'd literally been in the sea all day, as kids do, jumping these waves. And then the sun was you could see the sun was getting low. It was time to come in. We could see everybody was beginning to leave the beach, including the lifeguards had moved the flags. And we were trying to move ourselves back in, and we could not. There was no way. We weren't going into shore. We were going further out. And it didn't matter how much we shouted and how much we waved our hands. Nobody on the beach could see us. And everybody, by the time everybody had left, I mean, we tried swimming in, and both me and my friend were members of the swimming team at school. We were good swimmers, but we could not beat that current. It was dragging us out. It was dragging us out. And the waves were getting taller and rougher. And they were about 10 feet tall at that point, the swell when you're getting lifted up and down, and absolute exhaustion. So, you know, I have never felt exhaustion like that, when every cell in your body is screaming in absolute agony. It can't move anymore. And you're trying to tread water, and you're trying to keep your head above the water. And it seems completely hopeless because everybody has left and nobody has seen you. And I was fine as long as I could see my friend. She was fine. She was still alive. If she was still alive, that was okay. And then there came a point where I couldn't see her anymore. And I'd already been tumbled by a wave once. And when it catches you and pins you down on the bottom, and there's no way you can come up, when there's a wave tumbling down on your chest, pushing all the air out of your chest, it really hurts. And you know that when all that air's gone, you're automatically going to breathe in, and you can't stop yourself, but you really can't afford to do that until you get to the top where there's some air, because otherwise you're going to fill your lungs with seawater. But you can't get up until the wave releases you and lets you up. And then there came a moment when, to me, I perceived or was aware that there was this I can't, it's not, I didn't see, I was aware of an energy. To me, it was death. Just sat there about 2 waves over, looking at me with a sort of sardonic, laughy smile, with a question. And the question was, okay, so what do you want? Do you want to die? Do you want to live? So in that moment, I thought, well, I can't see my friend. And as far as I'm concerned, the question is mute. If she's dead, I'm dead, because I'm not going to survive without her. I don't want to survive without her. So I ran through the scenario through my head of, well, you know, a boat, we could get out far enough that a boat comes along and it could, by luck of chance, see us. And it could, by luck of chance, pull us out of the water. One way or another, if it's only me, I'm going to dive back in anyway. But all of that is it could be, because it's also just as likely that a boat won't come along. So the answer to my question, to the question that I was asked, was, well, actually, I don't know. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If it's my time to die, I'm going to die. If it's my time to live, I'm going to live. And this perception of death laughed at me in that sort of sardonic laugh. And I said in my head, right, you fucker. Because if I'm going to die or if I'm going to live, I'm going to do it right now. I took a deep breath. I stopped treading water. I put my hands over my head and I went down. And it's like, so you're going to save me now or you're going to kill me now? But I'm not going to struggle anymore. That's the one thing I'm not going to do, is struggle. And I surrender to the inevitability of whatever is going to happen, because it's inevitable and I haven't got a clue. And as the water closed in over the top of my hands, I heard my friend shout, "No, Paul," who was the name of her brother. So I put my hands down, shot out of the water, and literally, I don't know. I must have been spirit high, because I could see him on the beach, and I went, "Yay!" And he saw us and started to swim towards us. And I saw Becky, and I said, "Right, swim." And where it came from, I don't know, but I managed to swim. And so obviously I'm here today. But the point was that at that point, when you're in your leaky boat, and you might find a solution, you might not find a solution. An ocean goer might come along, it might not. You might seal up the leak, you might not. The point is, whatever happens, you will never know what's going to happen before it happens. Whatever happens is inevitable. So surrender, let go, and stop struggling. And let it be. So that, I think, is sort of that spirit guided, earth led, and heart centered. It is, we have to stop with this human fixation on control, because we don't have to work it out. We don't have to save anyone. We don't have to teach anyone. We don't have to save the planet. We don't have to do a goddamn bloody thing, but listen and do as we're told. Or it's not as we're told, it's as we're guided to. It's let go and really dig deep and hear what's being said. Follow the flow, because you will be, you know, I find it, I struggle with it. I absolutely struggle with it. But I find that when I really do let go, I am stunned and amazed at what comes through the door at me. So to take these paintings, for instance, I don't create them. I don't conceptualize them. I don't sit there in the way and decide how it should be. My mum coming up here, oh, you should do this, and you should do that. And I go, no. I've called in spirit. I've called in the elements. I've called in the energies. I've called in the spirit of whatever it is that dwells in that canvas already. And I have asked it to manifest through me. I have gifted my medicine, my talents, my abilities, all that I am, all that I'm capable of being, all that I am yet to become. And I've offered it up. And I step out of the way and I let it happen. And yes, I've got talents. And yes, it wouldn't happen without my talents. But I ain't got a bloody clue what's going to be on that canvas until it comes out. So sorry, lecture, or whatever that was, but that was triggered by your little thing there, Kat. It's like, whoa, okay, I'll share that one, because that was a buried memory for a long time. I remembered the event, but not the feelings. And then it all reacted when my kids were stuck in the sea, and it's like, woof, out it came as to exactly how it all felt. So there you go.
Just sharing, I've had
A similar kind of experience on a mountain. I'll just stop there in the winter time. But guardian angels do exist, and the whatever it is there, and you just have to trust it. I had to do a double take as I was scrolling the chat, and I saw Octavia Butler. That's my daughter's name, and she actually turned me on to the author Octavia Butler a few years ago. But somebody put in there, we don't have to wait for anything at all. What we have to do is start. I like that. I send quotes every Friday to a group mailing list, so I might snag that one. Thank you, Louise. That was powerful. It brought back some things.
It was really powerful. Appreciate you sharing that. One of my number one phrases is let go and let life flow. And that just, it's hard. It's hard when our head gets ahead of ourselves. And what is fully surrendering? It's full surrender is a scary thing sometimes. And it can bring up some shadows. But if we allow ourselves, like you said, we'll be guided. And like our mission, our vision is, we'll be guided.
So we're at 9 minutes left for the day here. And do we agree that Sodom is co-creating right relationship to spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection as a vision?
My only thing is that, was it right relation or balance? It was a matter of who we were speaking to and how we want that to be perceived and accepted. Sorry. Imbalance or right relation?
I like right relation, because balance could be members of the mafia doing a hit job together.
And is it relation or relationship? Right. You said relation. We've used both. Is it right relation through
I think even less people would understand that.
Okay, if it were right relation. Yeah, and I just heard it both ways, so I didn't know if maybe I had mistyped it or copied it part of it. One thing about making a decision is it can be changed, or if we find that it needs gotten back to, we don't want to change it once we kind of settle on it for a while. But if we think that will help us then move to our next step, if we like that. Do we need to let it sit? You think about it, come back and do it again for 2 hours? Because we can always change it. We could always come up with other words and things.
We can, I don't mind that. And I just think that either right relation or maybe harmony, right relation or harmony would be something I would go back to, but we can continue to move forward if we want. I'm not going to stop that.
I'm not trying to press either. I'm just trying to get some movement, right? Because, we've been here a while on this one, and it's all been good, great, and wonderful. And I think, where we ended last week, we were kind of at that place where we were ending, and we really liked what we had, and we started where we ended, and done some more refinement. So if someone wanted to so move that we accept this as our vision, someone may be so inclined to second it.
Which one are we talking about now?
Yeah.
Sodom is co-creating. Is it through right relationship? I don't know. I took it out of the chat, so I may not have it. Co-creating right relationship. So I have Sodom is co-creating right relationship through spirit-guided, earth-led, heart-centered connection. So I just kind of copied what was out of the chat.
Should we have a show of hands on that? Because otherwise we could be here all night and all the next one.
Are you proposing?
Oh no, we got 6 minutes. Otherwise we're coming back to it.
So I'll happily propose that.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Hands up on favor.
Like unanimous. So did you capture the motion in the second?
Yeah.
Tommy? Okay. Record that in the minutes. And I do have them. I have typed this into the minutes, so or into the minute document. I'm not sure where you're at. I haven't seen your cursor. But I am in Google Drive, so I captured that statement. So let's see, I have to take this one and put it back.
I was taking hand notes today. Sorry, Don.
Oh, no, that's okay, because we probably have been walking all over each other this way. It works out.
So in that you motioned it and Louisa seconded it, right?
No, I motioned it and Jim seconded it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right.
All right. I don't think we really have time to jump into a mission statement. Maybe we kind of have an assignment of thinking about the words, co-creating, right relationship, spirit guided, earth led, heart centered, connection, and just put that out, in some of our our connection as we meditate or whatever it is that we do, and how would we accomplish those things, right? What do we need to do to accomplish those things?
How would we accomplish the vision?
I think the Miro board is still there. If folks can go back and kind of look at the collective of words that we used and and really start to get to a place there.
And generally speaking, about how long is a mission statement roughly? I mean, what, you know, are we talking about it's a paragraph, a phrase, or is it more essay length?
Yeah.
Generally speaking,
2 sentences.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah,
2 or
Yeah.
3 sentences. Okay.
Yeah.
maximum.
It's longer than the vision, but you don't want too much detail. Between the vision and the mission, you want to capture somebody's interest and attention.
Yeah.
And then when you start with tasks and things, you can do all you want.
Mhm.
So maybe something we can do on our own is, if you feel inspired to, we could start another, there's another project in the Miro board. And the login for that and the website is in the last email sent by Soda Board.
There's a board left called Soda Mission from
There
the
is one
last
called,
meeting.
it'll take you to just our dashboard, but there is one with mission. If you guys wanted to throw in words while you're thinking of them, please feel free. And maybe we can start driving through that on the next meeting with some thoughts in mind already.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had that up. So I took the vision and I added it to the top of that board just now. So if people are working in that, you know, it's there. And it's already got a bunch of stickies. And I learned, just to share in case anybody hadn't figured it out, that if I right click, I can kind of drag that board around. I was trying to, if left click and move things, which is just, it's kind of the opposite. But if you're in a board, because sometimes it doesn't all present correctly, if you right click, you can just kind of move that around. All right. Jim, did you want to do a quick update on the elder gathering?
Yeah, not too much changed. I've met with a few people it's still set up for that. Wait, let me pull it up. I think it's March.
Oh, you have a date? We didn't have a date last time.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so on March 20th, there's going to be, for local people, a gathering here called Plant the Seed. And so we'll talk about how can we make this happen here in Sedona. And then the actual event now has morphed just a mite. And it's on October 19 through 23. We're now having a 5-day event, and we're going to
That's the gathering of the elders, basically.
of the elders, which we're switching.
You have a
out.
name?
Huh?
You have like a title picked for that gathering, or is it gathering?
So far, it's just gathering of elders, because it's morphing a bit. I was thinking of some of the things Kat and I have done, and now we're going to invite. And I had a couple young people at the first meeting I had. Also invite young people. So for a period of time, the elders will gather in this area, young people in this area, but definitely on the last day and maybe in the evenings, they'll come together and share thoughts.
And I'm sorry, this is on which day? Is that the March 20th or the October 19th?
The October 19 through 23. We have no idea how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And it's, if it works the way I think, it's going to get really big. So that'll give us a real visibility piece, because we're sponsoring it through sanctuaries. And I'm hoping we could do some local grant writing, because some of the elders would need assistance to get here, I know.
And I'm sorry, someone was talking to me about my dog right when you were answering that before.
Your dog is talking?
Someone was telling me I couldn't have a dog in the library, but
Oh my.
it's fine. But so March 20th is the plant the seed is just for the elders, or
No.
is that open to public as well?
That'll probably just be local elders, whoever wants to come. I don't want too big a group. We just want to talk it through and see what ideas people have to hear. I have Sidonia, the center. She also owns the Universal Enlightenment Center or whatever. I didn't realize that. She's committed both spaces as needed to this.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we'll need some kind of money to help her with that too. So,
So we'll have to do some
all of you
fundraising.
check your airlines and
Well, I've actually talked to a couple people, especially here in Boulder Creek, about this elder gathering and council coming together, and people are really interested to support and very interested to listen in. But the listening in, I can let them know, is going to now be October time.
yes, I think the thing in March, whatever that was, we'll probably record and then decide whether it should go out there, because we don't want to inhibit anybody there.
Right.
And
Okay.
pardon me, the October, yeah, we definitely want to. Robert couldn't make it today, but I think Robert working with Anthony at that center, the two of them will do a excellent job of doing that. So,
And that one's going to be a round table discussion for.
we're going to let it evolve. That's part of the reason for the meeting in March. But definitely there will be a lot of discussions, but there'll also be ceremony. There's a group who said there's an international group of women who dance for peace around the globe. And that woman reached out to me and said, could we do some ceremony on, so I don't know, whatever evolves. We have plenty of days. I really see us getting some of the really elderly elders here. That didn't make sense. The really old elders here. So
We know what you mean.
Yeah, right. So we hear them. So they're still with
You're
us.
going to be there, Jim. I think.
We want the people who can call me young man. That's what we want.
I have to tell you, I hired this new kid. He's 22. He's right out of school, right? I mean, first thing he tells me, and he was in an area that maybe would be really hard for him to get a job of the type that I could offer him. And part of the reason we picked him was because he was really good. He made our top 3. And part of the reason really it came down to, here's someone that may not have an opportunity otherwise, right? But first he tells me, you remind me of my father. And then he tells me that we're talking about something. And it's like, he says, oh, then they must have a really good boss. And I said, well, we need to go find that guy. And I was referring to myself. He says, you're an elder, he says. And so, you guide us. And I'm like, where did he get that? Right. Because I would have never expected that from him. But then Jim said, if somebody calls you that, I guess you've made it. You can't call yourself that. But right. I had that thought. I'm like, my gosh, I've arrived. Oh, it's good to see somebody young and excited. It's hard to find some if we go around my town. So, any rate, that kind of brings us down to our end. Another topic that we've been kicking, and it's not real critical right now, but talking about funding and what would our cost base be if one for this registration that we're going through. I know, Jim, you've been supporting some of that. Website, what might that cost? And so hopefully, maybe because we have been working across multiple meetings to get some of these bigger, higher definitions done, maybe we could commit to spending half the meeting on the mission, knowing that we're not going to finish it next week. I mean, I would just bet my my raise this year that you know, we're not going to get through it. So if we could just commit to an hour, you know, kind of come to a place where we can settle, take some cool thoughts back, and come back again on the mission, that would give us time to one,
good idea.
talk about some other things, like, you know, how do we want to go about researching some of this cost base? What do we need to start looking at there? And then I'd also like to go back when Jim and I first started, you know, and moving into this direction. I'd put together kind of the current vision. We talked about it in early meetings, current vision, future vision, you know, and see where we're at in our little paradigm there, right? Well, what have we accomplished? Because I think once we get past the mission, right, and we've had some discussions about, you know, how are we going to bring in some money, even if we do some short, you know, some kind of blast, you know, donation thing. I think then we get to a place where we kind of run parallel a little bit, still work on some of the definition and administration. But I just, like I told Jim, you know, I'll come to, I'd like to be here. I'd like to be a part of this, but I want to make sure that we really truly understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and and how we're going to accomplish it. And that's not the thing that needs to be done. It's the how we're going to go about doing it, right? So that we can build some sort of operational consistency, I'll call it, right? Not that we need to bind ourselves up with process, but to really have those concepts and design thinking type thoughts around how we shape and form going into the future with our programs, and what do we truly focus on in the beginning. So we do a lot of that in our, you know, I work for a really large company that's all over the world, and we could go for any kind of work out there. We really could, but we only go after the work that we want, in a sense that matches our core, right? And that we know that we can deliver well on. And that concept has grown over time. It's still not the same thing it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, right? That core competency can change over time, but it gives you that definition of, you know, there's a lot out there to go after, but how do we focus it? So I think that's kind of where we come out of the mission, is into, you know, the definition of some of those, and then what are those first core things that we go after. So just put that out there. You know, no real thought other than it's out there and we need to come back to it at some point. And I'm getting excited because it's the near future that we're getting those things, right? Louisa, you had your hand up.
Yeah, because I'm sort of feeling that, I mean, I know we've got to get the vision and the mission and everything sorted, and for obvious reasons, as you've just stated, but I'm feeling a real need to get the ball going. We really need a website, and we need MailChimp so that we can start doing a newsletter, you know, a mailing list. Because at the moment, you know, I'm beginning to, well, as you've all said, you know, you meet people that have got an interest in this and an interest in that, and they're thinking, yeah, I want to direct them towards Sotium, but there's nowhere for me to do that because there's only the Facebook group and it doesn't do or say anything. So there's no point sending them there, you know, apart from what Chris has written and the statement that we put up and a statement that Jim put up. It doesn't say anything.
Yes.
So it's just a timeline with bits on it. So it's not really a place to direct people. So we're rapidly moving to that place where we need something. So I absolutely agree with you that we need to start getting to a point where we structure these meetings so that we're being more productive. So I think giving it, like you said, you got an hour, that's it. And we're not going to touch that for the rest of this meeting if we haven't finished it. We need to get on with some business and then come back to it. I think it's very good because, you know, we're all going to have different ideas and different things. And we do have to push to make a decision. And not everybody's going to be 100% comfortable with it. And we can come back and change things, as you said. But I think, yeah, basically, I'm supporting what you're saying is we really do need to start kicking on now, I think, because I think this year things are going to start
Oh, yeah.
escalating really quickly, and we need to be really ready to ride. It's an energy wave, and we need to catch it. We need to be surfing it, otherwise we're going to lose it. Is how I feel.
I agree. And the only one thing I don't want to be is another one of these organizations that sits there fiddling as Rome burns. We need to do the work.
Mhm.
I think we could, something else to put out there is the concept of some quick wins, right? If we
Yes.
work toward getting a presence out,
Yep.
we don't just want to be a website they go to and it's full of, are there some active actions that, do we have some speakers or teachers or, some people that can quickly, kind of those quick wins. That's what, that we can get some things delivered so that.
Absolutely. What popped in my head about that when you were talking earlier was conference, whether or not we're in a place to do that, whether it's something you pre-record and you just have it on the website, or it's a good, or you invite, maybe we invite in everybody who is going to be in that support team of board members that are in a advisory role, that somehow we have some form of discussion like you would in a conference, even if it's a closed thing, that we can then put out there. So that
panel discussion,
something, anything.
I attend an event every year, and I have forever, because one, it's inexpensive, and two, I get a world view of my just teachers from all over the world that do what I do, which is program project management, contract management type stuff. But that's what they do. They bring together, and they're pre-recorded, right? I mean, you can tell some of those folks did it in their home, but they put it all together into a conference. Pretty cool. When you log in, it looks like you're inside a building.
Yeah.
You got all the menus and all.
I've stopped doing a lot of those.
That's what came to mind when you said that, is that, maybe not our first thing. It's probably not a quick win, but maybe that it does evolve into a Sanctuaries of Mother Earth day. Now, the cool thing about this day is that I usually sign up in July. It starts in mid-November, and it just ended this week. So I get to do it at my own pace within that window, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something you can charge tickets for. I was thinking conference, because you can also do something like a podcast to get the information out there and to get the name known.
There's quite a few, there's a few things that we can do that can gain some instant traction. And if we think about like the education ceremony, land stewardship, we can start recording little things that we can put on. Oh, all the puppies.
They know each other.
So we know what that means. It's time they want out.
It's time.
When we did global drumming and I hung out with Jim, he's like, and I'd never really done a Zoom meeting before. I mean, even like, and Jim's like, I got to take these dogs down. Can you sit here? And I'm like, I suppose I can figure it out, Yeah, I know.
I do those things.
So our next meeting will be on February 18th.
Okay.
And Shami, just wanted to double check, did you change the email and the phone number to you?
No, it's
I
Dawn.
changed it over to me.
Okay, great.
I'm not on the road. I don't travel much. I'm sitting in my, so I think I might be able to respond a little bit differently, in a sense. And it's no, I think it just creates a little.
Just so you know, I didn't not respond to anything. I actually never got any kind of codes.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
I didn't either. Right.
And I
shared.
I logged in and it said, oh, you've had some suspicious activity. Was it you? Well, I knew it wasn't me. But I thought, well, if I pick no, who knows what they'll do? So I picked yes, right? And it was somebody in the group. But So
Uh,
you can't get rid of that feature. That was my question. It's like,
I don't think
Uh,
so. It's super annoying because I get it at work sometimes too. Once in a
Yeah.
while, not always, but once in a while. It's super
Mhm.
annoying. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure it's legit and it was somebody in the group who did
yeah,
it.
yep.
Yeah.
I did find that, I have a Gmail account and I have, so the Google Drive attached to that, that if I logged into the Google Drive for Sodom, as long as you don't clear your cache or your history, it'll keep, and you save the login, it automatically takes me there. I don't have to sign in every time.
mhm.
But I made the mistake 2 weeks ago of clearing my cache and my history. And that's when I think I may have sent you a text saying, it wants this number.